This is not what I am looking for here. There we go. All right. Thank you all so much for being here. Per usual, I am trying to get myself on here, and I thought I was already set up here, so I apologize. For those of you who are just coming in, just give me a second here. Um, is this taking? Go. Okay. Um, all right. So, how is everybody? I am great. Thank you so much for being here. Um, Hold on one second. Every time I think I have this like figured out, I don't. So thank you for being so patient while I get all this figured out. All right. Go live. Instagram. Go live. Okay. Um, okay. So I think, uh, okay. Well, that didn't work out. Okay. Anyway, here we go. So I want to thank you again for being here. Sorry, this is always such a to do, isn't it? All right. So this is ADHD Real Talk. And this is formerly the Topic Tuesday. And my name is Jory Houlihan. I'm your guide for the dopamine deprived. And every Wednesday at noon Central Time, I go live to talk about something ADHD related for a few minutes. So, if you listened to this week's podcast episode with Lauri Stern, you heard us talk about everything from Reiki to the nervous system, but there was a current that was sort of running underneath that whole conversation that I want to pull out and focus on today because I think we need a little more time on that. So, we talk a lot about organization, productivity, medication strategies, etc. here. But we rarely talk about the emotional sort of bedrock that all of those things sit on top of. And we're talking about self acceptance. And I want to be clear, like out of the gate. I'm not talking about the self love and the flowery, toxic positivity sense where you, you look in the mirror and force yourself to do a high five with yourself when you don't really feel it, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the ability to look at your life, your messy house, your late emails, your brain that won't shut off without immediately sliding into shame or self loathing. So, if you have ADHD, self acceptance often feels like it often feels like a moving target, right? It feels like something you earn after you get your act together. You think to yourself, I'll accept myself when I'm organized. I'll accept myself when I stop being late. But today we are going to discuss why that equation is backwards and why your brain is wired to resist self acceptance. And then we're going to talk about how you can maybe hack the system to use some of the concepts that Laurie and I discussed this week on the podcast. So, let's start with why. Why is self acceptance so much harder for us compared to neurotypical people? Because it's not because you were born with low self-esteem. It is because you have data. You have you have data. If you have ADHD, you have spent a lifetime accumulating data points that suggest that you are quote unquote unreliable or too much. I love that one. Anyway, in the podcast, Laurie shared a story about being a child in a store. So she had so much energy as a kid. Her mom and sister would like set her down and just have her like run down the aisle until she was just out of sight. And then they would yell, stop. And then she would. And then they would catch up with her and then they'd do the same thing down the next aisle. Now, to me, that was a positive way of handling excess energy, right? But maybe you didn't have that. Maybe instead you had the teacher who asked why you talk so much, or why you're drumming your fingers on the desk, or why you can't just sit still. I don't know who I was talking to, but we were talking about how the word just can be so triggering for us with ADHD because it's things like that. Just get a planner. Just beyond time. Just sit still. Yeah, I'll show you just. Just kidding. Anyway, but it is very, if it was that easy, we would not have ADHD. All right. There is a statistic that we mentioned in the episode. Kids with untreated or undertreated ADHD hear approximately 20,000 more negative comments than their neurotypical peers by the age of 12. Whew, that is a lot. Okay, so think about it. Think about it. 20,000 corrections, 20,000 times being told that your natural state is wrong. And then of course we're going to internalize that, right? We take a neurobiological difference and we turn it into a moral failing. Who would not do that? We don't say my dopamine regulation is off. We say I am bad. I am annoying. I am broken. So when someone tells you to just accept yourself, there's that just again, of course your brain's going to reject it. It says, well, why would I do that? I have a permanent record of failure. Have you not seen this? So that resistance isn't you being negative, believe it or not. It is your brain trying to protect you. It's using shame as sort of a cattle prod, if you will, to try and force you into action so you don't get yelled at again. How many of you still get a horrible feeling when you quote unquote get in trouble? I do. I hate it. I'm 54 years old and I still go, I got in trouble. Anyway, anyway, so the problem is that shame is a terrible fuel source. It's a terrible fuel source. Why do we do that? So this leads then to the second reason that this is so hard, the biological barrier. So in the podcast, Lauri and I talked about how these feelings aren't just thoughts. They get stored in the body. So that that feeling when your motor is running, right? The physical restlessness, even the restlessness going on in your brain, right? When we are forced to suppress that, to sit on our hands, to shut up, to mask, that energy doesn't disappear. Where do you think it goes? It turns into tension. It turns into anxiety. It turns into a lot of things. So we talked about the vagus nerve and the nervous system. And when you are constantly criticizing yourself, you are keeping your body in a state of fight or flight. You are essentially bullying yourself 24/7. Lauri mentioned something that I found to be pretty profound about power. She said, we often abuse the power we have over our own well-being. That really hit me. We do that by, for example, denying ourselves rest because we don't think we have earned it yet. We think, I can't take a break. I haven't finished the list. I haven't done everything on the to-do list. And if I don't get these things done, people will think I'm lazy or incompetent or stupid or all the other things that I know you've said to yourself. And I know this because I have too. But doing that just leads to burnout. So Lauri and I have a friend, Lindsay Pinchuk, who said at one point, burnout isn't just about working too hard. It is actually not really about that at all. It is about having a lack of boundaries. So if you feel physically exhausted by the act of being you, it's not because you're lazy. It's because you are carrying around decades of holding it in. No wonder we're so freaking tired. So how do we fix this? That is a great question. All right. How do we move from this place? How do we move from this place towards self-acceptance without lying to ourselves, right? Because we feel it when we're not being authentic and we don't like that feeling. So we have to embrace what Lauri calls custom designed wellness, which not coincidentally is the name of her company. We have to stop trying to buy a one size fits all solution off the rack. That does not work for us. ADHD is a spectrum. We are all different. We all have similar symptoms, but we're all different, okay? So if you want to shift your mindset, I want you to think of it this way. I want you to shift your mindset from judge to data scientist. Ha ha ha. I love this. So a judge looks at a struggle and says guilty, right? A data scientist looks at a struggle and asks, what are the variables? If you can't sit still in a meeting, don't shame yourself. Be a scientist. Maybe you need some kind of like a fidget toy under the table, right? Maybe you need a chair that lets you move your legs without everybody seeing it like I have. I love my chair, by the way. If you can't meditate for 20 minutes in silence, then don't force it. Maybe you need to sing or do jumping jacks or something like that, or just stand outside barefoot. Acceptance isn't giving up. And I know a lot of you feel like it is. It isn't. Acceptance is acknowledging the reality of your wiring so that you can work with it rather than against it. I don't know if you've noticed this, but that trend, I say this kind of thing a lot. Learn to work with your brain instead of against it. It will make your life so much easier. I can't even begin to tell you. So, in the episode, I mentioned how I used to view feedback as criticism, right? And I'm sure that was partially my rejection sensitivity talking. So when I shifted that, right, when I realized that feedback is just data to help me adjust my custom design, so to speak, it changed everything. You have to differentiate for yourself. If you are a visual learner, use visuals. If you need to doodle to listen, then doodle. Stop apologizing for the accommodations that allow you to function. Everybody has something, okay? You're not the only one who has something and I know sometimes we feel really alone in that. But you are who you are. So just accept that and start owning it. Start embracing it. Because once you do that, I'm telling you, things really start to shift. All right? All right, so to wrap this up, I want to leave you with the core message from my conversation with Lauri, and that is you matter. It sounds simple, almost too simple, and I know we overthink things and complicate things, but for those of us with ADHD, we often feel like we only matter when we are productive. You are not your productivity. You're not your cleanliness. You're not your neatness. You're not your bank account. If you are waiting to be fixed before you accept yourself, you're going to be waiting forever because you are not broken. You are simply running on a different operating system. All right? So your homework this week is simple. When you hear that internal voice, I can't believe I did that again. I'm so stupid. Pause. Take a breath. Literally, take a breath. Engage that vagus nerve and ask yourself, what does my custom design need right now? Do I need a break? Do I need movement? Do I need a different tool? Just be curious. Ask yourself questions. Don't be critical. Be curious. All right. So let me know in the comments, what do you find yourself criticizing most about yourself? And now that you've listened to this, what might you do differently to counter that? I would really love to see what people are doing. And if you haven't listened to the full episode with Lauri Stern yet, go check it out. You can go to joryhoulihan.com, click on podcast at the top, and it'll take you there. It's a really good episode. It's one of my favorite. We dive way deeper into the woo and the science of all of this. And it was a really great conversation. So I hope you check it out. And if you needed to hear this today, think about someone else in your life who maybe needs to hear it too and share this with them because, we're all struggling with something and we got to find ways to lift each other up. So if you have a friend who's struggling with their own sort of internal scoreboard, send them this way. All right. So I will see you next Wednesday. Actually, will I? I may be late because I have something up until 1:00 next Wednesday. I will let you know. But meanwhile, I will be around somewhere. And let me know in the comments what you guys are going to be doing. All right. Have an amazing day.